Hey everyone, welcome back to your Excel Ninja, the channel where we help you level up your Excel skills one trick at a time. Have you ever struggled with messy data that's spread across multiple columns and you're not sure how to make sense of it? Well, in today's video, I've got you covered. I'm going to teach you how to use the Unpivot tool in Power Query, one of the most powerful ways to clean and restructure your data quickly. We'll take a messy dataset and turn it into a clean analysis ready format with just a few clicks. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to handle data transformations like a pro. So grab your Excel workbook and let's dive into the magic of Power Query. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on more tips, tricks, and Excel hacks. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Jimmy, and I'm your Excel Ninja.
Okay, so I know I talked about in the intro about cleaning up messy data, but in this particular video, we will be working with a data that comes in a very unfriendly form. And let me show you what I mean by that. It's actually a kind of a matrix. So the scenario is, most of the time or likely you'll get some raw data that looks like a matrix of information, like that looks like a pivot table actually. So you have rows of dimensions of region right there, and then they have attributes of their product, and we have like A, B, and C in this demo. And then you have some kind of a metric set right here. One says January sales, February sales, March sales, and so on. But they're in a structure where they become like columns in this downloaded data set. And this is good if this is our if you want to, if it's just for presenting purposes. But if you want to make use of it and try to get and try to pivot into a different presentation, like maybe a chart, or maybe dynamically try to change it, the views, and get some other insights with different perspectives. This wouldn't be an ideal way to to keep it like this. You have to what you call unmatrix, if you will, or unpivot, or oh, by the way, it's called normalizing the data as well. This is not a normal data. You have to make it a kind of like a database, and specifically an element of a table. So how do we do it? Well, you can actually use many ways, but in this video I'll talk about the I would say the quickest approach, which is using a built-in tool inside Microsoft Excel called Power Query. And well, there are other approaches, but right now we'll be working with my favorite tool, which is Power Query, where Power Query is actually a built-in tool inside Excel that tries to, number one, transform, import data, get it from a certain source, many sources actually. You will be actually be seeing that in a bit, and then from there you can make transformations. You can and then most specifically, the one we're trying to discuss here is to try to get clean up this matrix, restructure that into a data set that is friendly to become a database. So let's make this data set a normal table. Okay, so well, let me show you the expected output. Okay, this is basically what it'll become when it becomes a normal information. So right now it's kind of collapsed at the moment. But this is just for the purpose of showing you how it would look like per column. So what the ideal structure is that per category or dimension, attribute, they must be always be in their own columns. Like in region, we know that's already in the matrix earlier. Right here, they're good because they have their own column. your product is also in their own column, like so. And then what's different now is that from the matrix where the information about the dates or months right here respective to sale is kind of transposed horizontally here. But what you want is to, keep them in a columnar structure, and we expect something like this: January, February, and so on until December. And of course, metric will always be in its own column, sales, and they all should be associated in their own rows as expected from a friendly data set or a normal table. In fact, a data set should be in a columnar form. Okay? So how do we do that? Well, the first thing you'll have to do is, of course, activate the range that you're trying to transform into a friendly database or a data set. Once you're in there, go ahead and hit data, like here. And of course, Power Query, by the way, which reminds me I should make a video of kind of an overview, the fundamentals of Power Query. But for this video, just want to quickly say that Power Query is in the data menu, and its access in this little corner panel, or it's this subset of tools, and it should be under the get and transform data set of tools in the ribbon. Okay, so what you want to do is hit this icon right here that says from table range, and as you can see, what this does is that it creates a new query. So when we say query, it is actually it's a request or an import or it's a request to get that information, that data set, into the memory of Excel, specifically in a Power Query engine. And this applies to a named range, normal range, which is just a set of cells with values in them that looks like a table, or an array, or actually a table itself, which is in our case, this is actually a table. And that is indicated by this value when you actually activate or select a cell within a table looking information, and you get to have an option up on your ribbon that says table design. Then definitely this is a table. It's one of the things that I always teach my students, the difference between a table and just a normal range. So a table is actually defined in in Excel in the background right away, and it displays even its name. So you have to click on the table design option, and you'll get to see the name of this range of data set. So it's table 2 in this case. All right, so that's about that is just a quick little squeezed in information about table and ranges. But now let us proceed with querying this information. Okay, so that is going to be hidden data, and while you're active inside a cell of the range or the table, you may hit this button now. Okay, as soon as you do that, what you're looking at now is the interface of the Power Query in Microsoft Excel, and it's a Power Query editor. Okay, so on your left will be your queries. Ignore this table number 2 of here, because this was as you can see, this is a list of queries that you are actually working on, or in this file, in this workbook. And table 2 was my original query. Okay, because I created this workbook ahead of this video video recording. And normally you'll get only one item in this list, and which is actually the name of the table you're working on. And it just so happened that because there is an existing one, Power Query created another item and then renamed it with an index of number 2. As you can see, table 2, and then the index is 2 because I already have done 1. Okay, so in table 2, you get a preview, okay, of what you just requested to query into your into the Power Query environment. And on the right side of that, you have the query settings. This contains the properties of your existing query that you're working on. But I'd like you to focus more on the second panel below this panel, which is the applied steps. This is basically just a panel where you can refer to the steps that has been applied to your query or that you have done yourself manually. They'll show up here. I'd like to tell you that this implies 2 steps already has been made in your query activity, and one of them, actually they are arranged in a descending order, meaning the items that are listed on top are the first steps that you've done, either automatically by Power Query environment or yourself by I'll show you in a bit, by executing some of the tools here. They all get encoded and logged in this panel as applied steps. Here, the first step is actually called source. Is always the first step in a query when you create one, like we did just now. And what it does is that that activity was the action of loading the table number 2, which was the data that we were working on, into the Power Query environment preview panel at least. And that's why you have a preview of that over here. And then the change type step. So if I click here, what that basically did is it just gave all the columns of what you just imported into the Power Query environment, their data types. Okay, so region is obviously you have an icon that says ABC, which means it's text. By the way, if you go back to the source step, so the preview of that table, with just that step alone, you see every column is actually still in a general type and has no specific data type just yet. You can tell by the icons on the column headers that just says ABC 1 2 3, and then this reminds me to actually create a like I said, to create a fundamental discussion of Power Query, which I have to remind myself to do. So watch out for that video. Oh, and yeah, go ahead and subscribe and like my video so you don't miss that. Okay, but right now let's proceed with this second step. The second step was basically just to make all your data have their own data type. I mean the columns. So obviously the metrics are 1 2 3, which means they are integers, and then the rest is of course text or strings, which is expected out of a data set, or if it's also a best practice when it comes to data modeling. Okay, so here is the preview of that matrix that we have, and you can actually drag this down, or so you could take a look at what you took from your Excel. And remember, I took that from data, and then I hit that from table or range, and then you get there's 2 steps right here. So the next step is now to go right ahead, and of course our mission here is to really remove that matrix and turn it into a normal table. So the next thing that you have to do is to figure out the columns that needs to transpose so that it becomes their own columns or attributes and their own value. Okay, what I mean by that is, let me show you. Okay, I see that my region north is already a column of its own. It's normal because that's region, that's the name of the attribute, and their values are they're either north, south, east, and west. That looks good. So is the product, product, and then there's like a variation of A, B, and C, and they are in a column, which is great. Now, what is not good for maintaining a data set is that it looks like January sales all the way to December sales. If you notice the columns, and they appear to be in a on not really on its own column. It's like the headers, the values of the headers, they look like they need to be values with their own attribute. Okay, so and that attribute is should be month. All right, they need to be called months, and it just so happened they've been transposed as value as header names, which you're and now you're about to see how I will go ahead and turn them back, normalize their structure. So in Power Query, if you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard while selecting, columns, you get to multi-select, and that's how I did here inside this preview panel or table. And just like in the normal Excel sheet, you can actually multi-select columns if you just hold the Shift key. Okay, so now that they are all selected like this, in Power Query, don't worry about the menus here. Again, I will be eventually be discussing an explainer on the fundamentals of Power Query, but I'd like you to focus on a tab that says okay, well, it should be under transform, right there. Transform is a category that that has all the tools that are relevant to transforming, and one of them is called Unpivot Columns right here. So what you need to do is, of course, you can either click on the drop down, right? But you can just simply hit Unpivot Columns, because right now we have the selected columns is understood to be the one that the Power Query is will recognize as the one you're trying to unpivot or unmatrix. The other two options here is just in case you'd like, the ones that are not selected to be unpivoted. Okay. And if you can see here, unpivot columns or unpivot only selected columns will do the same thing. So I'll use unpivot columns. Watch this. There you go. So you can see that the columns has been reduced. It took the headers of these columns I selected and distributed them, transposed them as attribute, which is right there. Look at that. Okay. Now it starts. It actually it is now a normal data set.
To learn more about Excel and other data essentials, visit www.yourexcelninja.com to get started. We also offer one-on-one learning sessions.
So I think what you need to do further here is, these are optional. You may now make a very descriptive or friendly column names for the new columns that has been generated. I would name this as month. There you go. And by the way, look at those 2 steps that has been applied. So it's kind of like a log of what you keep doing. This is kind of like a macro that records every step you do, but this is more beginner friendly versus a VBA editing. Okay, so right now I have named it, and then there goes that step that says rename columns. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is, of course, I would want to change this header that says value to a more descriptive and friendly name. So I'm gonna say I recommend sales, because these are all this is a list of metric value of sales. Okay, and I believe here's another thing I'd like to do. Okay, just I think it would make it better for people who would want it to be to be more kind of a presentable for people who doesn't understand or doesn't like why would it say January sales, February sales? Kind of redundant because right here this column already takes care of that reference. Okay, so what I mean is that I am going to transform it this further. Now we're gonna try to do some text transformation, and my goal is to get rid of the sales string inside each value of every record. So in order to do that, you just have to select the column, and I am going to, so if you look at it, it looks like sales is always on the right side of the text value, and I see a space between the month and the sales. So because there is a pattern, I think I can just extract the months themselves uh, by getting rid of sales. So one way is to replace sales with an empty value. So that leaves you with January or February by itself. So that's one. There's another approach, but let's try this approach first. So what I'm going to do is, while this is selected, there is a, well, there's replace values over here. Okay. Hit that and hit replace values. In this case, the value to find is sales with a blank or a space before it, so that your output of your value will not have any unnecessary one space after the value. And in order to do that, you'll have to leave the replace with field blank. After so, you can hit OK. And you'll have the following output. This structure or layout of values that look like months, January, February, March, April, they are not sufficient to be automatically or intelligently be parsed by Power Query to become a data type of date. What you need to actually do in this scenario is to create some sort of a helper column. Okay, this a helper column will try to turn them into their respective month names. But the key to getting that done, you see, one requirement to parse a value into a date format from a text, it would be to also have information about days and the year in this in the string. If that was the structure, you will not have a difficulty in turning them into a date. In this case, you're about to learn that you'll have to create a custom column that will do that for us. So let's actually go ahead and do that right now. So if you have this kind of column, what you need to do is hit the add column panel right over here. Okay, and of course there are options on adding columns. You can extract stuff, you can parse. In this case, we will be creating a custom column right over here. Okay, right there. As soon as you hit that, you are given a form on creating your own custom column. One of them is the name of that new column you're about to create. I'm gonna name it date. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna say a month. I'm just gonna say month. But I'd like it to be not exactly as the existing month value. You cannot make a duplicate header or a column with a exact same name, but you can have to try to vary that. So I'm going to say month date value, so it becomes descriptive. So in here, this is actually the formula panel where you are this time going to be creating or writing Power Query language syntax or codes. In don't worry about this at the moment, because if you are a beginner in Power Query, some of the functions here are very intuitive. And if what I mean by that is, if you are used to using sum or if statements, they do they have like a similar translation in Power Query. For now, let's talk about turning a date value into, I'm sorry, a text value into a date form. But we're gonna be also trying to join some information into the string January or Jan, but we need days from it. So what I'm gonna do is type first. Let's build a code that will add the first of the month, and then the value month itself from the existing table, and then let's add a string 2025. That prepares our data to become a month that is in a date format. So how do you do that? So first, you'll be introducing, by the way, as always, when it comes to text, you always enclose them in double quotes. And when you want to say, anything you put in there will be considered as text by Power Query. So I'm gonna type in 01 wrapped in quotes. And when you want to join something or concatenate something to another value, it is common that we use the character ampersand right there. Okay, and the next value I'm gonna attach that to is the variable month, because here, so these are the available column sections. So if you can select them and insert them into your formula over here. Okay, so let's do that. I'm gonna hit insert, and there it is. So right now the expression is so far tells us that we are trying to concatenate the string 01 together with the month. But you know what, I will have to put a dash with it, because that's another character in a string format that that makes parsing of date effectively, so that they do not kind of join like really without a separator. Okay, so you gotta have to give it a separator that is recognized by, that are commonly used in dates. In this case, we'll use that, we'll use a dash. Okay, so right now what I'd like to also concatenate with month is, again, you see me putting an ampersand. And the next thing is, of course, now we could encode 2025 or dash 2025 with the expression. Now this means we are completing the format of a string that can be recognized as a date. So let's take a look at the output. After doing so, now what you have as an output is a list of text that looks like a date. And this is the kind of structure that the Power Query engine is able to parse or extract dates from. Now the next thing you'll want to do is, of course, by the way, right now you are looking at a final output that is satisfactory into normalizing that matrix. So if you have successfully unpivoted the raw data into a normal table. So now you also have the option in retrieving into returning the date from the month date value column right here. So as you can see, it's still in a general format. What you would want to do is to finally get it into a proper format, just hit that button and pick date. You have finally converted your month that was in string format or character format into a date value. Now we are ready to go ahead and close and load. Oh, and before that, I'd like this to show you one thing. If you ever have a date column and would like to parse the month name from it, you could do this. Highlight this column, And what you want to do is right click that and pick, I'm sorry, you have to right click that and go ahead and hit transform right over here, because transformation is actually the category for what we're about to do, and that would be to go ahead and get the data. Sorry, get the month name right here. And when you do that, now you have more options that are enabled. That is because the column that you have selected is now valid to be parsed, like maybe the month name, like I was saying. Okay, so you can now see here and pick name of month. Watch this. And there it is. So you have transformed the value into the dates themselves. But I think what can also be good as an option is to also get another column that will represent the end of month, because sales sometimes they represent them in the end of month date value. Because right now what you've just witnessed is, we've just extracted the month name, and if you have noticed, extracting the month name turns the data back into a text form. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that you also have this option. But if you would like and you would like to keep the date value, you may go ahead and, instead of doing this, let me just delete that step and turn this into the end of the month. As of the moment, because we had the way we encoded earlier back in the replace value step, we turned it into a first of the month. But now we're going to turn it to the end of the month. To do that, while this is selected, make sure you're still in the transform option. From the transform option, there should be a date option. From the date drop down, pick month, and then now you can have end of month. And the output would now result into each value to be the end of month of the date value. Okay, so let's try to go ahead and close and load this information. So what's going to happen, it's going to load it into the spreadsheet, and it's going to create a new sheet for us. You have finally unpivoted your data. Let's take a look. There you go. It has created itself this information right here. Okay, so what happened now is your data has become friendly to get pivot tables from. You can actually do this by hitting insert over here and hit pivot table, and then probably you want a new worksheet, then go ahead and do so. And this is what I'm talking about. That raw data, since it has been transformed into a friendly data format, which is a normal table, you have now the freedom to pivot into a different insight perspective. Like in this case, what if you just want region, right? You can just pick region and put it in your rows, and probably you just want sales for the values. And as you can see, you can start building stuff easily right here, and keep going until you feel that you have satisfied the objective. In this case, maybe I want the product variations to be under the region hierarchy, and then my information still is dynamic, because now, as you can see, I do not have the month as the my column section for my matrix, but I can now go ahead and recreate that. So if I put the end of month in my column, you'll see that it has now become just like the raw data that we started from, only this time this is dynamic. You can even see that it has a grand total. And you can even see that it has some hierarchy up here. Okay? There you go. So just to recap, you have just successfully learned how to start from a raw data of an unfriendly data structure. An example of that is a matrix. And you have just learned how to transform that using Power Query's Unpivot tool. You have to just select the columns that you have observed to be in a structure that is not normal, and just select those and go ahead and hit unpivot from the data menu under the transform tool, and then load it onto your spreadsheet. It's that simple. Just a little reminder on data types in this case. So yeah, I appreciate you watching this video, and thank you for watching.